Hi, my name is Erica Van Eaton. You can find me at ericavaneatonhealing.com. If you like this video, like it, share it. What we are talking about today is we're going to start talking a little bit more in depth about the human gene sequence, DNA, the study of epigenetics, and source energy codes, how everything's intertwined, and how our environment directly affects our self-expression when we aren't conscious. So the study of epigenetics is the study of how our environment directly affects our gene expression. And what we mean by that is a strand of DNA. We've seen images, we've all seen images of how it's normally coiled. Not too tight, not too loose, just a slight coil to it. When we have negative, what we would perceive as negative, something that doesn't feel good, fear, stress, insecurity, lack, shame, guilt, when those kind of frequencies from the emotions being felt in our environment, or if everywhere we're seeing poverty, lack, those kind of frequencies that form that reality, that form those thoughts. The molecules of energy in those wave formations are very incoherent. They do not work together. So if we look at a brain scan of someone that is in one of those thought forms, if we look at, I used to work in cardiology, and I looked at heart rhythms pretty much all day long. I did heart ultrasounds. So if we looked at the heart rhythm, if we looked at the brain through an EEG, what we would notice if someone was in that state is there'd be more erratic, more heart rate variables. Same with the mind. It's in a little bit more, it's in a higher state of chaos. Reason being is because the wave formation is chaotic. So it causes disharmony when it hits the body. It causes disharmony when it's going through your mind, and it puts you in a different brainwave state to where you have lower cognitive abilities to make good decisions. So when we are growing up, when we are in the womb space and we have negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions hitting us from our mom or hitting us from our environment. And a lot of these are subconscious. But when these formations come into us, it hits our heart sends a signal to the brain sends a signal to the rest of the body. Everything's a vibrational match. So this incoherent wave starts to come into the body and it hits our DNA. And if it's incoherent, our DNA starts to coil itself to protect itself. Our source energy codes do the same thing. Our source energy codes, after working with thousands of clients, to me, how I've seen it and experienced it and come to know it through the guidance of the archangels and what they have me see when I am with someone, is when our soul was woven from source energy, when we came into form from source energy, when our souls were woven, there are specific aspects of the divine, of God, of universal energy that were gifted to us, that were woven into the very core of our being. And we're each these slightly different aspects. We each carry these slightly different codes of light, these slightly different frequencies from each other, but they're all aspects of God, but they're all slightly different aspects of God. Why? That's what gives us each our own personalities and our own individualized experiences, so that source could know itself more fully. So your source energy codes, when it's being bombarded by outside information in the form of negative thought forms, or fear, or grief, or shame, or lack, any of those things, as they come into your field, they make you feel unworthy. They start to cover over your own source energy codes when we aren't consciously aware and when we're just downloading this information while we're growing up. So if that starts to download and comes into your energy field and you don't have a strong foundational base for who you are, which we all kind of forgot that we're part of God, right? So If we don't have that strong connection and that strong remembering sense of self of who we each are, then we oftentimes unconsciously allow for this outside information to come in and start to cover over our own source energy codes. And again, if it's incoherent, then our source energy codes act just like DNA. They shrink to protect themselves. And so when negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions hit our DNA, because the molecules are so erratic within that energy strand, when it hits the DNA literally coils tighter. And codes, because it's coiled so tight, the gene expression begins to change because certain genes begin to turn off because it's coiled so tightly that it can't work properly. So when these codes of light turn off, or depending on the coil, that determines how our body reads our gene sequence. What is on and what is off, depending upon how tightly this is coiled. Well, our source energy codes are the same. So if we have this outside information coming in and it's hitting our heart is sending signals to the brain all day long, and the heart is the first thing to develop in the little baby body. So as the heart's developing and it's sending these signals to the brain starts developing neural pathways that are vibrational matched to this heart space. Our codes of light, that uniqueness that is you, is beginning to be covered over already when we're in the womb space. We're already beginning to forget the truth of who we are because it's having to restrict itself to stay safe. So through energy healing, through mindfulness and consciousness, what we're aiming to do is to come back to that original sense of home and to that more complete self-expression that is the truest of who you are, which is the divine being of light that is uniquely you. And we're beginning to really depixelate these imprints from our field that we've allowed to identify with. Because ultimately, this is just one big simulation, right? Because everything is energy, and we create our memories through frequency. That's it. It's just frequency. They're just waves of energy. They seem so real to us, and those packets of information of trauma or dense memories that just don't feel that good. That teacher that yelled at you that one time in class who didn't have the intention to make you feel like crap, but maybe you got your name up on the board and it made you insecure. Or maybe it made you not want to speak up anymore because it doesn't feel safe. So all these little layers of unworthiness, these imprints of information, they almost form like pixels, like these little informational boxes, and they stack on top of each other and they create a memory in the field. And the only thing connecting us to that memory are the vibrations that we hold within ourselves. So if we don't express the emotion that was felt, then we hold on to those peptides, the neuropeptides and the other chemicals, because we release thousands of chemicals every time we have an emotion. So we hold on to those in our tissues and our cells, and that imprint then stays in our cells and it stays in our tissues, the vibration of those chemicals. And that connects us to these memories that tell us over and over again who we are and who we aren't. And anything is possible to anyone at any time. But the only thing keeping us from truly being limitless is not having an internal unified voice. We have so many different voices speaking to the energy field all the time. And what I mean by that is our body is saying one thing because of what's trapped in the cells and the tissues. Our mind is saying another thing when we are being conscious and we're like, okay, I want to manifest this, or I want to feel and experience this. Like we're consciously thinking what we want to do. Our heart feels love for people and things and just wants to receive love and feel good and accepted. But our gut is telling us it's not safe because maybe we didn't feel completely seen and loved when we were little. So our gut is saying something different, our heart is saying something different, our mind is saying something different, and the chemicals in our bodies are saying something different. So we have all these different voices, and they're talking over each other and nobody's listening. And we're like, okay, well, I want to manifest this certain experience, but you have 4 other voices with 4 different opinions about what's safe for you or what's true for you. So coming back home and being conscious is checking in with yourself. What is my body saying? What is my mind saying? What is my ego, my personality saying? What is my inner child saying? Can I come back home to having a unified voice? And where that unified voice always exists is in your heart space. Your codes of light, the uniqueness that is you, your source energy codes are always, always there. They just might be a little covered over with a few dingy, dirty blankets, we can call them. So come back home to center through breath work, through working with a healer that you trust, through reading books, meditation, taking long walks, doing breath work helps start to move all these chemicals in our body. Whatever works for you, it's coming back home to create an internal unified voice so that what you desire to experience and what you feel passionate about begins to get projected out like on a big screen in front of you. And you start to pixelate the kind of life that you want to lead, with the kind of emotions that you want to feel, with the kind of thoughts that you want to have, all interlaid in this beautiful new memory that you're creating. Your own simulation, you're in charge, but it has to come from a unified voice from within. Otherwise, it becomes very erratic and you get a lot of conflicting information being sent into the field. So I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, you can always email me, erica@ericavaneaton.com, or follow me on YouTube. I have a free library full of different meditations and things that you can check out on my website. But so much love and light. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being present.